Good evening, dear friend and dear fellow patriots. Welcome to this edition of the Lionel Nation Thought Cast, not broadcast, Thoughtcast. I'm casting thoughts, broadcasting thoughts through some kind of weird telepathy, ladies and germs, to you. That's what I'm doing. That's what this is about. And I say welcome. Let me also tell you tonight we're going to be talking about why Peter Thiel is the most dangerous man in the world and nobody knows his name. Nobody knows his name. It is phenomenal. One of the best stories and tutorials, and you're going to know, lots of people do. Believe me. I can't believe I'm even saying this. The number of people that I meet who have never heard of him is beyond anything that I could ever even imagine. Now, before we begin, ladies and germs, let me tell you something right now about this wonderful and important and critical product from preparewithlionel.com. And the question remains, it's very simple. What happens when and if supplies drop? When supplies drop, when there is, in the sense of food or sustenance anarchy, when shelves are bare, when trucks stop or won't deliver. They won't deliver. Chaos hits and it starts building. And it doesn't have to be the end of civilization. It could be a couple of days of a storm. It could be, who knows? Hurricanes or wildfires or supply chain breaks down, strikes, riots, EMPs, UFOs, I don't know what it is. A hurricane, a tsunami. Can you rule out anything? We're seeing weather like we've never seen. Well, you can't rule anything out anymore because it's the way it is. Imagine going a week without real food, not snacks, not banana chips and jerky, but real food, life-sustaining calories, clean water. That's why I urge, implore, entreat, beseech you right now to listen, take heed. My Patriot Supplies 3-month food kit gives over 2,000 calories daily, 22 varieties with a shelf life of up to 25 years. There is nothing like this. Get it, buy it, stack it, forget it. And today you get 4 extra weeks free. A $247 value. Don't gamble with hunger. Don't gamble on any of this. Don't wait until it's too late. Go now to preparewithlionel.com. I have a link in the description section here, my friends. Preparewithlionel.com. Protect your family. Preparewithlionel.com. We are so proud to be affiliated with these great people, and you will see why. And I hope you never, ever, ever need them. Now, my friends, I want to talk to you about a person I've been talking about, and others have been talking about, many of us, for quite a while, and that is Peter Thiel. Who is this guy? What is Palantir? What about Elon Musk? Isn't he the dude? Isn't he the guy? Well, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Well, wait a minute. I learned this guy. You mean there's somebody new? Yes. Yes. Not so much new, but somebody you should pay attention to. Big time. And it's very, very, very simple, my friends. And I want you to listen very carefully and just take heed. Just take heed. Don't get too crazy about this thing. Just listen. Because as soon as I talk, people start talking immediately. And they start typing away and responding and clipping and quipping. But to those who are listening elsewhere, I appreciate it. Peter Thiel, Palantir, and the rise of America's surveillance state. That's today's subject right here on The Nation. Peter Thiel is not a household name to a lot of people. He is to us in this household, but his influence on the architecture of American surveillance and the American surveillance state makes him by far one of, if not the most consequential, controversial, deadly, critically important people in America today through Palantir Technologies. And this is the one, Palantir, through Palantir Technologies, the company he co-founded in 2003. Peter Thiel has become an individual responsible for building the tools that now underpin and provide the foundation for law enforcement, immigration enforcement, military targeting, combat field targeting, even pandemic response. There is nothing like it. There is nothing like it. So, where did the name Palantir come from? It's very interesting, right? This is one of those, and I'm not necessarily into these things, but Palantir is from Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. It refers to a series of seeing stones or far-seeing crystal balls used for communication and intelligence gathering. So the company Palantir Technologies was named after these mythical objects by its co-founder, Peter Thiel, inspired by the stone's, I guess, ability to provide a broad scope of sight and knowledge and all this kind of jazz. So that's what it means. But as far as who Peter Thiel is, critics call him the most dangerous man in America. I do, without a doubt. Take anybody you've ever heard of, any of your favorite, your favorite types. The Soros and this guy. Do your best. Anybody that you think is really scary and nothing. Elon Musk is nobody compares to Peter Thiel. Nobody. The most dangerous man in America. Precisely, because of the fact that most people have no idea how much power he has and had, and how much his power his company holds. They don't. That's what makes him deadly. Nobody knows about it. See, that's why AIDS was so deadly. There's always a part where nobody knows what AIDS is, and then they say, hey, there's something going on here. I'm not comparing him to AIDS, but what I'm saying is the worst part about something is when you don't know anything about it. That's when it is by far the most dangerous. And nobody knows anything about it. Nobody knows anything about it. So who is this guy and what has happened? Well, we have to look at his evolution from PayPal to power. Thiel was born in Frankfurt, West Germany in 1967. His family emigrated to the United States in 1968, eventually settling in California, and he studied philosophy and law at Stanford, and in 1998 co-founded PayPal with Max Levchin, Levchin, and others. And the sale of PayPal to eBay in 2002 netted Thiel tens of millions of dollars, seed money he would use to bankroll Palantir the following year. Now remember, a lot of this is, how do I say this? And I don't know if this is true, but sometimes more powerful people either help or assist or contribute to what seems to be private business. Understand? Understand what's happening? Now, Palantir's origins are closely tied to post 9/11 counterterrorism. Post 9/11. At the time, remember the name John Poindexter? Remember him? He was the former national security big shot, notorious for his role in the Iran-Contra scandal. Remember that? He was running the Pentagon's Total Information Awareness Program. Remember this. Make a note of this. TIA. And TIA was designed to mine vast amounts of personal and commercial data in order to predict terrorist activity before it happened. Remember when you saw Minority Report and you heard of things about predictive programming, and you heard this and you thought, oh, that's nice. I say, no, this is real. Public outrage forced Congress to defund TIA in 2003. But many of its ideas and plans and programs and momentum survived in classified programs. You think you're going to defund this? You think you're going to defund this away? So Peter Thiel saw an opening. With help from Richard Pearl, remember this, known in Washington as the Prince of Darkness. He was one of the neocons in Iraq. Remember that? For his hawkish policies. Thiel secured $2 million in seed money from In-Q-Tel. Well, remember this name, In-Q-Tel. This is the CIA's venture capital arm. So Palantir was launched as a private sector continuation of TIA's surveillance system. So you see how this works? They're not going to defund anything. If the government shuts everything down, we'll move it to private. I mean, after all, YouTube and all that stuff, that's just private, right? That's just private. Well, the expansion of Palantir is incredible. You see, Palantir's flagship software, Gotham, integrates massive volumes of data from disparate sources. This is interesting. Financial transactions, communications, travel records, surveillance feeds, government databases. You name it, little bit of mosaic fragments that put together form this kind of a conglomerate called metadata. Imagine the funnel. You have the top, which is scooped, and it points to the mouth of the funnel. Initially, this was pitched as a tool to help the CIA and military track Al-Qaeda, but it has since become ubiquitous. And by the late 2000s, Gotham was in use by the CIA and NSA for terrorism. And ICE adopted it to track immigrants and aliens and the like and coordinate deportations. The NYPD integrated it into its domain awareness system, creating one of the most advanced municipal surveillance grids in the world. Did you know that? LAPD, New Orleans Police Department, used Palantir for predictive programming, generating profiles of individuals deemed and considered likely, you know what I said, likely to commit crimes. This is Minority Report. Civil liberties groups argue that Palantir's algorithms hardwire bias into policing. No shit. They say it disproportionately targets minorities and poor communities. Maybe, unless that's where the crime is, or unless that's where you're looking. So studies have shown that predictive policing creates feedback loops. You know, arrests in certain neighborhoods lead to more surveillance of those neighborhoods, which leads to more arrests regardless of actual criminal rates. It kind of makes sense. And that's a very good point. You should always keep that in mind. But Palantir's influence extends overseas. In Afghanistan and Iraq, forward deployed engineers embedded with U.S. military units, providing real-time analysis that helped generate drone strike targeting lists, were all done. You see how it merges. Just like how the mob merged with law enforcement and intel, this is how private industry and intel merges with government. So Palantir's role in Project Maven, which was the Pentagon's AI initiative to analyze drone footage, further embedded the company in America's referred to as a kill chain. Now, the domestic uses and COVID tracking were also important. See, domestically, Palantir's reach grew significantly during the COVID-19 pandemic, when the Department of Health and Human Services contracted the company to build a platform called HHS Protect. You see how Palantir is infiltrating everything? And when it does, it also grabs all of this data that it now holds regarding military and government, things that are so critically important and classified you can't imagine. So the system then aggregated hospital, testing, supply chain data, and critics warned, they said, wait a minute, the pandemic response gave Palantir unprecedented access to sensitive health information. They said, this is not a good idea. The FBI has used Palantir tools for counterintelligence and domestic surveillance, including monitoring all kinds of protests and the like. And the IRS has employed them in financial investigations. You see where this is going? Civil liberties folks, advocates, remember, God bless these folks. They've been warning that Palantir is quietly, if not overtly or not so quietly, becoming the default data backbone of the federal government. In fact, the two have become intertwined to such an extent you can't tell one from the other. And the political influence of Thiel, jeez. Peter Thiel has cultivated political influence alongside his business empire that you cannot believe. Was Thiel at the White House? I don't even know. You don't see this guy. You see Bill Gates, and he likes staying low. He's quiet. See, in 2016, he donated about $1.25 million to Donald Trump's presidential campaign, becoming one of the few Silicon Valley figures to openly support him. He later backed, and this is critical, J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, the venture capitalist and author, now the VP under Trump, investing millions in his 2022 Senate run. They pick somebody, they pluck them from obscurity, they give them a story. Obama was the community activist or leader, whatever it was, and Palantir, redneck, toothless, whatever it is, redneck and goat roper and shit kicker and all that. And now they buy him. So this political activity positions Peter Thiel as more than just a businessman. Oh no, he's a power broker. A power broker whose company provides critical, unprecedented infrastructure. Notice I didn't say infrastructure, but infrastructure for both national security and domestic governance. And a lot of critics of Thiel are saying this creates an extraordinary conflict of interest. One private company with deep partisan ties operating at the core of the state's surveillance apparatus? You can't do this. Oh, yeah? Want to bet? Well, guess what, Dick? It's happening. And the global reach? Unbelievable. Palantir's global contracts are equally significant. The company has provided battlefield targeting support in Ukraine since Russia's 2022 military activity. In Israel, reports suggest Palantir's software has been used to map Gaza and coordinate military operations, and that means innocent people and buildings and Hamas and other people as well. In Europe, Palantir tools are used in migration monitoring, counterterrorism, and the debates are going nuts there as well about human rights violations. Oh no, this is Palantir. Palantir is going to be Shinola. It's going to be the same as Halliburton. It's going to be the name. Watch, they're going to change their name, like Blackwater went to G or whatever. Amnesty International, for whatever they're worth, and other NGOs have warned that Palantir's products enable mass surveillance on a scale that absolutely undermines privacy and civil liberties worldwide. You're absolutely correct. And why Peter Thiel is considered dangerous. Peter Thiel's critics argue that this brand of libertarianism is a smokescreen. While he publicly champions markets and freedom, Palantir profits from state surveillance and military contracts with a net worth of over $10 billion. And Palantir's annual government revenue approaches $1.7 to $2 billion. He is firmly entrenched in the machinery of power. And power is the thing that you want, not money. Unlike Elon Musk, who craves media attention, or Bill Gates, who's cast as a philanthropist or whatever it is, Thiel maintains a super low profile. And that anonymity, combined with Palantir's consistent and pervasive but opaque role, makes him more dangerous in the eyes of opponents, and for good reason. They argue that his company has become kind of a private extension of the intel community, where whatever the intel community can't do, he'll do, acting as their proxy, acting as a cutout for them. This provides these capabilities dwarf the oversight mechanisms of a democratic society. There's nothing like this. Stated differently, there's nothing like Peter Thiel. There's nothing like this. Peter Thiel's intellectual philosophy adds to these concerns. In his book, 0 to 1, he espouses this notion of definite optimism. This is the belief that the future must be engineered through decisive action. Now, those critics interpret this as like, wait a minute, as a justification for this weird kind of out of control, technocratic control. And that, combined with Palantir's technology, they put them together and they say, wait a minute, this amounts to, in essence, a roadmap for this post-industrial feudalism. I love that word. Post-industrial feudalism, postmodernism, another one, where digital lords rule over us, the serfs, the data-driven poor serfs. And the stakes are through the roof. Whether or not anybody accepts the view that Peter Thiel is the most dangerous man in America, the facts are stark, brutal. Palantir software is embedded across the U.S. government and allied militaries. Its predictive programming algorithms are shaping law enforcement. The surveillance platforms redefine privacy. The battlefield applications are influencing life and death, a lot of death decisions. And Mr. Thiel, the founder, a billionaire with deep political connections and a history of backing controversial causes, let's face it, a cause isn't worth backing if it's not controversial, remains largely invisible to the public. So the question, my friends, is not whether Thiel has built power. That's pretty moot at this point. The question is whether that power can be checked or controlled or reeled in, or whether America is sleepwalking into a future where one private company and one man hold the keys to surveillance, who control security and sovereignty. Bill Gates doesn't do this. You see, this is something that you can't explain. He is it. He is it. And whether you look at this however you want, he is it. And this is the most important thing in the world. And I'm telling you, you can sit back all you want and you can say to yourself, well, look, that's just the way it goes. These are different times. And different times require maybe a different strategy, maybe something. Everybody else is out there and screaming and yelling and look at me, not him. And I am very concerned about him and JD Vance. And I don't know. It might be past the point of no return at this point. What's happening regarding, and this isn't AI, or as my friend calls it, Al, because he thought the I was an L. That's another issue altogether as well. This is different. This is about the commodification of data. And with data comes control. Because if I know every place you go, every place you walk, and everything you do, that's it. And here's the best part. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody talks about this. Nobody mentions this to the president. Nobody talks about what's going on. They'll talk about stuff that, it's interesting to an extent, but not this. The background story is so critical. What's being played. So what are we talking about instead? Epstein. This stupid Epstein story that nobody cares about. That nobody cares about. The Epstein thing, is dead, right? There's nothing that just sucks up all the energy in the room. All the energy in the room. And the part which is the most important, the most difficult for people to understand, is what nobody really wants to hear, and I don't understand. Well, I don't blame people. America shows an incuriosity. America doesn't seem to care or want to research. It has all of the data available before it. It doesn't seem to be able to grasp the notion and the content of being afraid of anything. It lives in a world of la la land. You have some people who seem to be concerned, and yet concerned for the wrong thing. There's no suspicion. Once you call something a conspiracy theory, that's it. People go away. That's the problem. Because if we knew about this, we would demand that something either be done about it or that it be discontinued. But we don't say anything. Why do you think that is? Why? It is the story of a lifetime. It is the story of a lifetime. America is sleepwalking. I mean, maybe that's the nicest way to put it. America has literally no clue as to what's going on. And the best part is, the people that we deal with, our friends and colleagues, they may be the worst of the worst of the worst. Because there's something, I don't know what it is. They seem to have a sort of a, I don't know, kind of like a childish way of looking at things, I guess you might want to say. I try to tell people about this, and they don't really seem to get it. They don't really seem to grasp it. They really don't seem to understand what's happening. The other day when I was talking about our sponsor, our great sponsor, preparewithlionel.com, people have this idea that says, oh, come on, stop it. Are you some kind of prepper? Are you one of these prepper dudes? Prepper? What are you talking about? Are you a prepper? No, I'm not. I don't know what a prepper is. What do you mean a prepper? What do you mean? Oh, you know how it is. Some tinfoil hat dude. People are so worried about appearing to be a conspiracy theorist. That's the part which I find to be the most fascinating. That's the part which I find to be the most fascinating. And what's also interesting too is that there's no way for me to get around it. And no matter where I go, it never ceases to amaze me. I will invariably be wherever I go. If I'm talking to people, they kind of know what I do and they kind of read my stuff. And I'll ask you, what do you think about this? I thought, oh, I don't think you want to go there. No, no, no. Tell me, tell me what you think. I said, okay, I'll tell people. And I'll look at them and they'll look at me and it will be a look of almost, I don't know what the word is. A look of, sort of confusion or like, what? Well, you ask people what's going on. It's like, yeah, but that's not what I want to hear. See, I'm watching cable news. See, cable news is really easy for me. It's really easy. I kind of don't know what you're talking about. I'd like to know what you're talking about, but I don't. I don't really know. So what is it that you're talking about? And I'm talking about, predictive algorithms. I'm sorry, what? Predictive algorithms. I don't know what does that mean? You know the movie Minority Report? No. You know the idea of going on it? No. You can't, social credit scores? No. CBDC? No. None of this? No. Not really. Are you aware of how we're using targeting, using data, and this ubiquitous information regarding targeting, weapons targeting in wars, whether it's Israel or Ukraine? No. Most people don't know anything about Israel. This is the weirdest thing too. If you watch a lot of cable news, you are told specifically, do not bring that up. Do you understand what we're saying? We don't talk about Israel unless it's glowing, unless it's this mindless 100% just like we saw during Vietnam. America, love it or leave it. Love it or leave it. It's all we cared about. So take Peter Thiel, and what protects him the most is the fact that America doesn't know what's going on. America doesn't grab it. America doesn't get it. I say this all the time. I know it sounds like, it must gotta be boring. But America is sleepwalking. This is like cognitive somnambulation. That's the simplest way to put it. We're living through the greatest transfer of power and control in modern history. And the majority of Americans don't even blink. They don't even know. And they don't want to know. They don't want to research. They have all the information in front of them, in their pocket. Facts, documents, whistleblowers, YouTube, documentaries, leaks, contracts, patents, books, articles. Nothing. But they'd rather scroll TikTok, than confront the reality that their country and, in effect, their freedom and their children's future are being dismantled piece by piece right in front of them. Why do you think that is? Because the truth, I guess they don't know, is not hidden. It's not buried in secret vaults. It's hiding in plain sight. Palantir Technologies files government contracts worth billions every year. Project Maven's AI kill chain is openly discussed in defense circles. Surveillance systems are proudly rolled out by police departments. Data harvesting by big tech is announced in earnings calls. None of this is fiction. None of this is science fiction. None of it is guesswork. But the average American has no appetite for the truth. Why do you think that is? Because the system has trained them not to care. Label someone a conspiracy theorist, and the conversation ends. That phrase is the kill switch, the third rail, kryptonite for any kind of curiosity. The minute you hear it on cable news, the minute, people shut down. They smirk, they shrug, they laugh. They don't look further. The label is enough. And whatever they do is to shut you down, to limit you, to shelve you, to push you aside, to say, well, you were. And the architects of this system, they know it. They depend on it. They use the phrase as a shield. Conspiracy theory is how they neutralize warranted suspicion. It's how they keep America sedated in their la-la land of, consumerism and distraction. And think about it. If Americans really understood what Palantir was, or anything for that matter, if they really grasped that the FBI and the IRS and ICE and the NSA and the CIA and all this, and the Pentagon and the police and health agencies and everything, everybody are running on a private company's surveillance grid, there would be outrage. One company. And you know what that company is? It's the government. They're both the same. It's not this private guy named Thiel who acts independent. No, he's acting as a proxy of the government. The government runs everything. When I say the government, it's really the shadow government, if you think about it. And here's the best part. If they understood that predictive programming and predictive algorithms and policing, that they don't just stop crime, but create crime by algorithmically targeting communities, they demand it be discontinued. And if they knew Project Maven's AI wasn't just analyzing drone footage, but feeding kill lists, they'd revolt. I haven't even brought up the notion of AI, and if AI can take over this, or AL, if they grasp that every email, every financial transaction, every hospital record, everything you have can be pulled into one system and weaponized, they see it correctly that the Constitution is under attack. See, but they don't. They don't, because they don't connect the dots. They don't dig deeper. They don't dig anything. And when a few do, when a handful of Americans raise the alarm, they're branded as, what is it? Kooks, extremists, conspiracy theorists. Look at Alex Jones. Alex Jones has been more right and more correct and more on target and more over the target than anybody for years, decades. And what did they say about him? He's crazy. He's a nut. He's great. Look, he yells. See, that's how control works today. Not through censorship alone, but through force, through intimidation, through ridicule. See, once you're laughed at, once you're painted with a broad brush of conspiracy, the mainstream tunes you out. You're old. If you remain nothing, no hits, no runs, no errors. If you remain anodyne, everything's great. Meanwhile, the elites keep building. They don't stop. They don't care if a handful of journalists or activists shout into the void. What are you going to do? They know the masses will keep buying iPhones and streaming Netflix and keep arguing over the latest culture war distraction, while Palantir signs another $1 billion contract. And this is the genius of modern control. The Stasi had to spy in secret. The KGB had to operate in shadows. But in America, surveillance is marketed as progress, and we laud it because it's keeping us safe, keeping us from the problem. 9/11, if we had Palantir, by God, maybe we could have prevented that. See, AI is sold as innovation. Gene editing, the scariest, is framed as medicine. And geoengineering is painted as climate action. People welcome their own chains, their own handcuffs, because the branding is slick and the PR is polished. And the alternative, which means facing reality, is far too terrifying. So Americans don't fear. They don't seem to or can't grasp the notion of fear in this context. They live in la-la land. They're convinced the real threats are foreign wars, partisan rivals, or the latest celebrity scandal. They get concerned about the wrong things. They'll argue about pronouns on Twitter while Palantir is embedding itself deeper into the state. They'll scream about gas prices while Project Maven expands to every branch of the military. They'll fight each other over issues designed to divide them over nothing, while the infrastructure of surveillance tightens around everyone, left and right and like. By the way, 1984 means nothing to these people. Dystopian or Orwellian. They don't even know what we're talking about. And this isn't apathy. It's programming. It's a society trained not to see the cage being built around it. A culture taught to scoff at suspicion, to mock skepticism, to trust experts who've been bought and sold by the very companies eroding their liberty. And here's the tragedy, among others. America once thrived on suspicion. That was who we were. This country was built by people who questioned authority, who distrusted power, who knew tyranny could rise anywhere, even here. The founding fathers enshrined suspicion into the very blueprint of government. Checks and balances and separation of powers and limits on surveillance and Fourth Amendment and protections and, protections for privacy and speech, First Amendment, Fourth Amendment. Suspicion was patriotic. It was great. Skepticism was virtue. It was the American way. But now suspicion is demonized and skepticism is laughed at. Some conspiracy theory. And patriotism? Patriotism is rebranded as extremism. No, this is where we are. And the result of this is even better. This is a nation that won't defend itself. A people who will not demand accountability. A public that doesn't even realize it has surrendered. It's surrendered. And if Americans knew, if they really knew what was happening behind the curtain, so to speak, they would demand action immediately. That's what they would do. They would insist that these programs be investigated. They would shut down or at least be regulated. See, they would question why a private company, let me say that again, a private company like Palantir holds the keys to government data. They would challenge why predictive algorithms are allowed to dictate justice in the first place, and they would fight for privacy and for liberty and for sovereignty. But they don't. They don't say anything. They don't demand anything. And silence is the greatest weapon of all. That's the thing that will kill us. And ignorance, and nescience, and ennui, and torpor, and all that other kind of jazz. Silence allows Peter Thiel and his network to operate without scrutiny, under the radar. It allows billion-dollar contracts to roll through Congress unchallenged. It allows AI-driven warfare to expand with no debate. And it permits and allows surveillance and surveillance systems and surveillance, lattice work to creep into every city, every agency, every school, every doctor's office, every car, every phone call, every text, everything. It allows the line between this thing we call democracy and digital dictatorship to vanish. One software update at a time. And the scariest part isn't that this is happening. The scariest part is that almost nobody cares. You can shout it from the rooftops. You can show them the documents. You can put the contracts in their hands. And they'll shrug. They'll go, back to their screens. They'll call it a conspiracy theory and move on. That's the final stage of control. See, when people willingly dismiss the truth behind believing it would force them to act, they won't do it. You see, America is at that stage now. Our jail cell, our cage is being built. And the door is closing. Here's a figurative analogy. The door is closing, and the public is laughing at the few who try to sound the alarm. What's the matter? Why do you... As we're being caged. Unless this changes, unless suspicion returns, unless people rediscover the will to challenge authority, the public is already sealed. It's done. The future is sealed. The tomorrow is done. It's doomed. Writ large, as they say. And it won't be freedom. It won't be liberty. It will be a high-tech, again, a feudalism, kind of a postmodern, post-industrial feudalism, where citizens are reduced to data points, little nodes, and the state, powered by companies like Palantir, which really are the state. Because think about this. These companies become the government. They know more about you than you know about yourself. And my friend, that is not a theory. That's not speculation. I'm not just guessing. That's documented. And it's funded. And it's deployed. And the only question is whether Americans will wake up in time, or whether they'll go down in history as the people who traded their freedom for convenience and all that stuff. They laughed at the warning. Oh, there you go again, you and your tinfoil hat nonsense. And then that, while they're escorted into their digital prisons, are just moved away. So we try here at The Nation. We try with you to get people to pay attention. We really do. But it's a tough thing. It really, 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 really went well. And the problem that we have right here is that most people just don't really feel it. The level of concern they feel will go from here only to the keyboard. That's it. And they will feel that that's it. Their voice will never be heard, maybe on a tweet, maybe on something. That's it. And they'll have this outrage. I mean, they'll say this stuff very, very strongly, especially in chats. But the point is, they just really don't understand. They, honest to God, do not understand. They really don't get it. And we're going to still continue. We're going to continue to fight. We're going to continue to let people know. And to force this story. That's the thing which is the most critical. And we have a lot of things going on, my friends, and I'm running into it a lot. I see a lot of folks, a lot of good people out here who really, I think, mean well. We had an event last night that was so wonderful. It was a WABC event. It was like a precursor, if you will, to the 250th anniversary of the country. And it was wonderful. Absolutely, positively wonderful. And I just look down. I look and I'm seeing. And this is nice. And this is nice. And it's nice. And I love the fact that so many of you great people are involved. I really like the fact that so many of you are involved in chats and involved. And most people who are listening to us are not really following what's being done, because they're not following this right now, playing along. But they're listening to us. But I can see that our work is cut out for us. I can see that our work is cut out for us. And we're not going to stop. Because I think America really gets it. But I've never lost faith in this group. But I've never lost faith for a moment. And the problem that I have is trying to explain to them concept. Let me put it this way. Imagine years ago, if you and I were trying to explain to somebody what it meant to deal with, or how people could deal with this thing called, I guess you would call it just atom bomb. I mean, just imagine that. Imagine, and we did this then. In the 30s, 40s, 50s, I have this thing called, we're going to split atoms. Split atom. This guy's crazy. You're going to split an atom, and by splitting this little tiny little thing, you're going to produce energy that could. What? That's kind of where we are now. It's where we are now because we're having the most difficult time explaining to people flat out. This is what it is, because this is weird. It's odd. It's strange. It doesn't lend itself to the usual substance. It doesn't lend itself, I hate to say this, to the usual stuff, if that makes any sense. And I guess what I'm trying to say to you, my dear, dear friends, is very simply, there's a lot of folks out there who are thinking that we're crazy. But you know what? We're going to continue. We're going to continue undaunted. And I want to thank you for being with us. I want to thank you as well for being with us always. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for following Mrs. L and me. Mrs. L at Lynn's Warriors has been superb. I ask of course, that you follow her. She, for reasons I shan't ever figure out, my friends, for reasons I shan't figure out and can't figure out, she has been held back by virtue, maybe the subject matter, because I'm convinced that they want all talk about children and the like to be just discontinued immediately. And the reason why is very, very simple. The reason why is that they want you to stop associating anything with AI and children. But the problem is the problem is bigger than ever. So thank you for following Lynn's Warriors. Thank you also for following, dear friends, this wonderful effort of ours. Let me remind you again, as usual, our dear friends at preparewithlionel.com. A 3-month supply right now will allow you also to secure a free 4-week emergency food kit, a $247 value. This is life and death. Remember what we need during courses of problem: food, water, energy, and ammunition. Don't let anybody fool you. All right, my friends, I thank you so much. I wish you the best. Have a great and a glorious night. Make sure you're subscribed to Lionel Nation. Until we meet again, remember, the monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue you. Dad.